Hello and welcome to this Actian webinar on the operational data warehouse, the next big thing in BI and analytics. I'm Pradeep Banot. I'll be your primary presenter today, and joining me is Greg Hale, who's a solution director in our professional services organization. He'll be covering our services offerings and helping me with Q&A. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Pradeep. Thank you.
So, who is Actian? So, for people who aren't familiar with Actian, we've been around a long time, more than 30 years. We used to be Ingress originally, and then over the years got spun off as a independent entity around 12 years ago as Actian. We specialize in hybrid cloud data warehouses, mission-critical data management solutions, as well as enterprise data integration solutions. We have more than 3,000 customers around the world, high satisfaction rating, and we have at least 50 patents, I think 53 in total, and the ones we're proudest of are performance related. You can see some of our customers along the bottom of the screen, and we're used by 24 of the Fortune 100 customers. Interesting to note that we were acquired, 80% acquired by HCL last year, and 20% acquired by Sumira Equity. We're still an independent company, but we're part of we have a much bigger parent than we used to have. So, you know, in the 2000s, infrastructure was like a big deal. People, you know, IT was all focused on running infrastructure. And then that became, with the advent of virtualization, infrastructure became easier and more commoditized. And people started focusing on applications more and more. Into 2010, I would consider that to be the era of the app. And today, applications are becoming more and more commoditized as people move to microservices and the cloud platform, and infrastructure and applications have become less of a focus, and organizations are really considering their core competence to be around the data they own about the business they run, and that's where they're deriving a lot of value. So companies who do use analytics tend to be high performers in their segments. This is the results of a survey conducted by Bain Research on big data and the organizational challenges of that. What they discovered was that organizations that use data to make decisions are 2 times more likely to be in the top quartile for financial performance with their peers, 5 times more likely to make decisions faster than their competitors, 3 times more likely to execute decisions than intended, and more likely to use data when making decisions, obviously. We've said that infrastructure is becoming less important and data is becoming more important. Where your data is still very important to people. As I mentioned, with the focus on different elements of the IT infrastructure, today's IT environment has a lot more choices than it has in the past. We have a lot of IT data sources that are run on appliance type devices such as Exadata, Netezza, and Teradata, dedicated database appliances, if you like. And they tend to run primarily on premises. And some of them, like Teradata, also are available as hosted solutions in the cloud, but it's still the same system. It's just available in the cloud. It's not a public cloud service. Then came along cloud data warehousing. An example of that would be Redshift, which basically provides complex IT infrastructure in the cloud. You still have to, every organization that uses it really is aware of every single node, and they have to do all the system integration themselves, and you can't turn it off, so it's quite expensive. And as a response to that, the second generation of cloud data warehousing came along, typified by companies such as Snowflake. Snowflake gives you more elasticity. It's easy to expand and contract your cloud databases. And you can turn it off, which is like a big deal. You pay for what you use, and you know, it's a pretty big advance over Redshift, but it has the drawback of still not being available on premises. And at Actian, we believe the right thing to do is to give the customer the choice of where they put their data. They should put their data analytics where their data currently resides. And the notion of an EDW kind of gone away, and people have data in multiple places. And big organizations can't move to the cloud overnight, so they really want to keep a lot of their data on premises still. The majority of it still is on premises. So Actian's hybrid approach gives you the capability to still keep your data on-prem and provides that same database engine in multiple clouds, including AWS and Azure. So you basically can move to the cloud at your own pace. These two, you can have multiple instances on premises or in the cloud, and they can be connected. So we have the notion of a federated query to allow you a single SQL statement to span multiple data locations. So today I'm going to talk to you about Actian on-premises, which is also known as Actian Vector. The analytic database, the core of our database engine is the Vector database. It's available in various incarnations, one of which is the simplest form is an SMP configuration. So basically a single box. Vector scales linearly on a single box because it uses vector instructions. So a single CPU instruction can take advantage of all the cores in the system to execute a particular query faster, and I'll drill into that a little bit later. So Vector is a second generation columnar database. It scales really well on individual box, but individual boxes tend to run out of capacity at around 10 terabytes. So if you need to go bigger than that, you need to scale out to multiple physical boxes. And for that, we have the ability to run on a Hadoop cluster. Hadoop provides the infrastructure required to span a database solution across multiple physical machines. And Vector is able to take advantage of multiple instances across multiple machines to scale the workload to support hundreds of terabytes and even petabytes of data. An interesting twist on that is ITNX. For a lot of operational analytics, people don't really want to have to move their row-based operational data to a column store database just to do analytics. So what Actian has done is provided a system called ITNX, which is a hybrid transactional and analytic database. So basically, in the same database, we have the ability to store data for OLTP use in rows, like a traditional database, like a typical Oracle database you might be used to, or SQL Server. And if you want to do reporting on it, instead of creating indexes, you just create a column, a columnar data axis. So you can basically create a columnar data for analytics as easily as you would create an index in a traditional database, except you don't have to do an ETL to get the data there, and it runs a lot faster than traditional indexes. So why is Actian Vector the core of Avalanche on-prem so fast? Well, I think we've basically optimized it for performance. It was originally a database engine intended for the gaming industry, so it had to be really fast, which is still the core of the Vector story. We have high-speed loaders, which loads faster than most other loading technologies, highly parallelized. It requires very little administration to get performance. There's no indexes to maintain. The DBA's world is very, very simple. It just runs fast straight out of the box. And one of the things that makes it particularly suitable for operational workloads is its ability to handle updates in real time, so your end users can get fresh data even though it's being updated. And I'll talk through a couple of case studies where organizations are doing that. So there's no reason to resort to OLAP systems, for example, to pre-compute results. You can basically get high-speed performance from raw data. And we have a patented update capability, which basically can handle singleton updates to the database with only a couple of milliseconds overhead compared to a read query. So, that ability is what you need to get fresh data for your analytics. So people generally use BI tools or reporting solutions still to get access to analytics. Here's just some examples of how people use analytics today. Improving products, improving sales, getting insights for executive decision making, to improve finance, regulatory compliance, etc., improve risk and fraud. I'll talk through some of these examples. But before I do, I'm going to hand over to Greg to tell us a little bit about Actian's service capabilities.
Thanks, Pradeep. So I just want to briefly talk about the Customer Success and Professional Services Organization. And our reason for existing is to ensure our customers are successful in the implementation and use of our products. We're not a professional services organization per se. In other words, we are not trying to make money out of professional services. It's to support the adoption of our products. So the way we can help customers is through our technical knowledge of our product base, as well as knowledge of the market, and we can help people make a decision on technology choices. I think people need to start with that technology decision. Is it the right thing for my customer, for me to do? And we do that by having a number of services. Can you go to the next slide, please, Pradeep? Which are grouped into these three different categories. So the first one is insight, and that helps you make a decision on whether a decision in technology terms is the right one for you. So we can provide an assessment of your data warehouse infrastructure, look at the existing architecture, write a report on the proposed to-be architecture based on your requirements, and give you a recommendation. And that can vary from a week to 3 weeks, depending on the size of the engagement. If you decide that you want to move platforms, one of the big questions is how easy is that move? Because some data warehouses are very heavily plumbed in. So we can provide a migration assessment, and I'll talk a bit more about that, which will tell you how automated that process can be and help you estimate the level of effort that's required to do things manually, because there always is some effort. We can also do a health check on your existing systems and provide a report on integration, reporting, etc. So those are the three decisions or offerings we help you with to make the right decision technology-wise. Actian's success is once you've successfully implemented its ongoing optimization by looking at health checks, products, upgrades, etc. And we can provide you with either a remote DBA to do some of the operational things to make sure our technology is working optimally, as well as someone that can be more permanently on site with you as a technical account manager. And to get there, we provide some realization services. But as I said, we're not an SI that provides professional services as a means to make income. So we would provide a technical expert to help you realize those. And there's two groupings there. One of them is a sort of foundational offering, which is a much shorter engagement where we would help you on site. And the other one is for much more complex migrations, which typically last 6 to 12 months. So those are the three categories of offering that we provide. Next slide, please. So in our experience of migration, we've written a number of best practices, and obviously we have a methodology behind this. I think foremost is make the right plan and estimate the required time and effort, and that's based on all stakeholder needs as well as all requirements. Missed requirements mean missed tasks and plans, which means you're probably not going to hit your deadlines or do it for the right budget. We thoroughly recommend a phased approach. So start small, learn, get stakeholder buy-in, and prove things before rolling out. That mitigates risk. We would also recommend that you use this as an opportunity to remove data you've accumulated that you potentially don't need. So you need to assess the data that's currently in existence and decide what you want to do with it. And obviously you can archive it if you're not 100% sure. Migration tools don't do everything for you. It's people, process, technology. A technology will only provide part of the answer, and you need to realize that. There's lots of hidden dependencies in a migration, and particularly for a big EDW, they'll be heavily plumbed in. So you need to understand all those dependencies and plan accordingly. Performance is very key in analytics. So you need to establish very clear baselines and be sure of how you're going to measure them to compare like with like, because they're very, very important to get your reports on time. And sometimes things do go wrong, and you do need a very well thought out rollback plan in case they do. I worked somewhere once where there was unplanned building maintenance, and it took the power out as we were going through a live migration. So we had to use this rollback plan. And finally, test, prove everything is correct. So not only do you have to migrate a database and all the data which you can reconcile, you have to prove that all of the upstream feeds feed that database correctly, and you can reconcile that, but the downstream reports give the same answers, and you should make sure that that's in terms of the business view of the data. Next slide, please. So to enable a migration, we have a tool called Migration Assist. And as you can see, it evaluates a schema and enables you to convert it. So what it does, it looks at the data types, the functions, the UDFs, the stored procedures, the indexes, etc., and makes an assessment of how well it can migrate it from a source, and the source varies, can be, as you can see on the left, the example here is Oracle, but it could be PostgreSQL, it could be Sybase IQ, Netezza, Teradata, and MySQL, and allows you to migrate that to any of the Actian databases. And the one shown here is ITNX, our hybrid platform. The tool will evaluate and give you a score of what can and cannot be migrated. And as you can see on this image, some of the things are highlighting something in red, and those red parts are the pieces that cannot be migrated automatically. The tool allows you to go in and examine what can't be migrated, whether it's poorly formed SQL, for example, and allows you to do an edit of that to correct the issue or to remove that particular statement from the migration. It will migrate the schema and all of its associated objects, as well as the data if you choose to. So we would use this in any assessment and assess how much can be migrated automatically and how much is required to be migrated manually, and help you estimate that effort. Typically, we see about 90 to 95% of SQL and data types, etc., can be migrated automatically. But obviously, that other 5 to 10% needs to be assessed. So that's me done. Back to you.
Great, thank you, Greg. Just a reminder for everyone, if you do have questions for us, please use the Zoom Q&A function to enter them, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. You can see a couple of questions have already come in. We'll get to them right after the presentations, and Greg will stay around to help you with those. Now I'd like to go through a few examples of Actian customers who've been successful with our technology, starting with the AA. The AA is the UK's leading breakdown service, but they also provide insurance. And that's where they use Actian to basically help them create quotes really quickly and with a minimum of risk. So the way they do that is to use the data they've accumulated about a potential customer from insurance histories. They have industry-wide databases, as well as their own data on how often that person calls for breakdown service. A person who calls the breakdown service a lot tends to be someone who doesn't maintain their car very well and is a higher risk, and they tend to give those high-risk people pricier quotes, which mitigates their risk. It also encourages those people to go to a different provider to improve their risk in total. And one of the cool things about their implementation is they use Actian Vector to get the performance for their quotes. A lot of the insurance supermarkets in the UK, like Compare the Market, rank different quotes based on how quickly they respond to requests. So if you can respond in under a second, you're going to be on the first page of quotes that a prospective customer might look at. And the next use case is an operational data warehouse for a telco provider. And our customer is Expandium, who provides dashboarding for network operators. And Expandium basically I'll provide an example of one of their customers, is mobile phone operator with 20 million customers. And they generate something like 5 billion transactions per day. Each transaction is basically a text message or a phone call, for example. And the database is updated continuously in 5-second micro batches. And they keep a 10-day window of data, so it's between 40 and 50 billion records they're reporting on. And they use Actian Vector on a 12-node cluster because it's the only database on the planet that can give them the ability to handle that level of updates coming in without having to aggregate the data. The operator can basically see trouble spots on a map, drill in to that trouble spot, and drill down into an individual drop call. There aren't many databases on the planet that can actually do that level of performance and granularity, provide that level of granularity. So that's why they're big fans of ours. Kiabi is a retailer, fashion retailer in France. They've got more than 600 stores. They migrated from an Oracle-based analytics system to Actian Vector, and they've seen a 200 times performance improvement and a 10 times reduction in the physical size of their database, because Actian is so much better at compressing the data before it uses it. Leroy Merlin is a retailer again, but this one spans multiple countries. They span 12 different countries, and they want to provide real-time sales information to all their stores. So they have something like 2,000 interactive users using a database spread over 2 Actian databases. The next example is Insight Software, which used to be Hubble, based in Ealing in the UK. And what Insight provide is corporate performance dashboarding capabilities. They basically collect operational information from things like JD Edwards, SAP, Oracle databases, for example, HR systems and other operational systems, and consolidate them onto an interactive dashboard for executive reporting. And they offer Actian as an accelerator for their application. So if you want sub-second response times and refreshes on all their dashboards, you basically purchase the add-on Actian Vector Accelerator, and all your queries will come back a lot faster. TNT is a logistics provider, now becoming part of FedEx Express. And they basically need real-time visibility into where packages are. So it's critical that they have the fastest database technology available. And what makes them interesting is that they use a replication scheme to replicate the data across multiple databases using technology called high volume replicator, which is a CDC solution. Basically, it does log scraping and distributes copies of data to multiple locations. So every location gets the performance of a local database. An example of our hybrid database technology, the hybrid OLTP and analytic technology I talked about earlier, ITNX, is the University of Oxford. So they have traditional Ingress OLTP databases, which store data in rows. And that data basically is the results from their clinical trials, the raw data. That clinical trial data containing up to 5,000 attributes for just about, for everybody in the UK who gets tests done. They're all sent to Oxford, anonymized, and then they're used for analytics to help with epidemiology and disease prevention applications, for example. They load that data into the columnar database, which is in the same instance, and are able to do high-speed analytics on that clinical data. They actually sell that service to multiple organizations around the world for analysis of things like pandemics, for example. So that's a really good use case of a hybrid columnar and row-based database technology, and a good example of an ODS. So just one slide on some of the things that make Vector so fast. I think I'll focus just on one feature, which is vectorized processing. So traditional databases process data one row at a time and have to do a context switch in between every row processed. That can be really expensive. With the columnar approach that our vector database engine takes, we can basically load up all the registers and all the CPUs in a system in one CPU instruction, and then process all those vectors, which could be 1,000 elements, for example, in a single CPU instruction. That's the main thing that makes Vector so fast. The other thing is, it's optimized to run on CPU memory, not just RAM memory. So that can be accessed 10 to 100 times faster than traditional memories. So this is just a couple of reasons why Vector is so popular. And I'm not going to read through these bullets, but basically it performs really fast straight out of the box. The first time I ran 20 million rows, it came back on my laptop, came back in 0.6 milliseconds. I couldn't believe how fast it was. I didn't even create an index. So now we're into the Q&A section. We'll just go through your questions. Greg is with me to help out with those. While we're waiting for a couple more questions, we'll just a reminder, if you want to see Vector for yourself, we can provide a one-to-one overview and a demo. Just email us at asa@actian.com or visit actian.com/avalanche and try it out in the cloud or on premises. We have trials available to do that, or you can download the database for yourselves. The first question I see is on platforms. Vector you can run as an AMI in AWS. You can run it as in the marketplace on Azure, or you can download it, and it's available in the community edition which runs both on Windows and on Linux. We can also evaluate it on Hadoop if necessary. Greg, you want to take the next one?
Yep. The next question is on, do you need to have an ODS to support operational reporting? I suppose my view is that the ODS is really in place as a way of integrating data from your OLTP systems and separating out transactional processing from any reporting that needs to be done. And people don't go to a data warehouse to get that because of often the latency of getting the data to the data warehouse. So people build an ODS instead. With the advent of ITNX and its hybrid capability, you can have both the ability to run OLTP operations as a normal RDBMS, as well as using the vector engine and the column store to support any query capabilities you have to support OLAP. So you can remove the need for an ODS potentially by using something like ITNX. The other alternative is that you could obviously use the data warehouse and the real-time update capabilities that we provide to run things from the warehouse. But obviously the path to get there's a bit longer, and it probably would require more input from other teams to change a data warehouse rather than something that's local to the OLTP. So there's two options there.
Great. Oh, there's a question on how to get data, best ways to get data into the database. So for that, we have a couple of data integration technologies. One's called Data Connect, which has pre-built connectors to 200 plus data sources. That provides transformation capabilities for typical ETL. Another tool is Data Flow, which works with the KNIME framework. That provides you highly parallelized operators to transform the data and load it as well as unload it. And if you're going to use our analytics engine in the cloud as Actian Avalanche, that has built-in integration. It's called Avalanche Connect to connect to your data sources and manage the movement of data to the database. So that's the question on connectivity. I see another question on security. So for security, we can basically store the database data encrypted. So it's encrypted and secure at rest, and there's support for data encryption in motion, so with SSL, etc. Avalanche, the cloud service, is extremely secure in that only whitelisted clients can access it. It's SOC2 level compliant, and there's advanced features in the database itself, such as obfuscation, so you can mask individual PII data such as credit card numbers or social security numbers, etc. So that's, hopefully we can tell you more about that if you want to talk to us directly. Okay, so thank you, Greg, for presenting with me. Thank you everyone for attending. Hopefully you'll get a chance to check out the database technology for yourselves. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for replay in a follow-up email. Oh, here's another question on are the slides going to be available? We can make the slides available as a PDF as well on the follow-up email. With that, thanks everyone for attending, and goodbye.